Now, when you're about to go on holiday or flying for a business trip, there is nothing worse than hearing that your flight is delayed, sometimes even cancelled. So which airline is the most punctual in the world? Well, this may come as a surprise, but there she is. Aeroflot, Russia's Aeroflot. Yeah. According to research by Cirium, nearly 87% of its flights were on time. That was followed by Japan's All Nippon Airways, just over 86% punctuality. And third in the list was actually last year's winner, Delta, with 85.6% of its planes on time. Hey, let's get more. Jeremy Bowen is CEO of Cirium and joins us in the studio. I'm coming. Good to see you, Jeremy.
Hi there.
Thanks for coming on in. You must have to collect a lot of data to get to these sort of accuracies. Just briefly, how do you put this all together?
Yeah, we have to collect an awful lot of data. We were processing data from over 600 sources for this particular part of our business.
Right.
And that comes out in the guise of 15 million updates every day.
15 million every day?
15 million every day that flows into our databases. We normalise that, put it together so we can then flow it out and produce information like this for our clients that involve airlines, airports and many other people in the travel industry.
Okay, I'm going to name it because a little birdie told me that when we ask, say, Alexa or some of these voice activated, they're using your data. Google uses your data. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, well, there we go. Good on Aeroflot, right? What do they do right to get this top ranking?
Well, they've moved up the rankings since last year. Excuse me. They moved up the rankings since last year, and it's interesting, airlines themselves, they all have slightly different commercial models, they all have slightly different priorities, and they all have slightly different operating conditions. So Aeroflot are a little bit of an advantage that they're obviously owned by the Russian government, as is their main airport is owned by the Russian government as well. And that happens in other locations as well, but it means that synergy between airline and airport to really get that ground crew operating correctly is really good for them.
Yeah. Now you made a note, Jeremy, smiling when you mentioned the airport there in Moscow, because neither of us can say the name, right?
Increasing and doubling over the next 20 years. And so we need to create that infrastructure to make sure that it's built for that.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, because you also do the low-cost carriers, and they're all around the world. But the number one low-cost carrier was Japan's Starflyer. 91.4% of its flights arrived on time. That's not only the number one. That's the number one carrier in the world, if you put it that way, right? As in,
I suppose if you put it that way, yeah. I mean, it's a we look at different criteria for low-cost carriers, but they've done a terrific job. But again, that model's different. Yeah. That model is very much land, get that plane turned round, get the passengers on and off, and then off you go again. Yeah. They're trying to fit as many cycles, as many trips for that aircraft as absolutely possible. So they've done a great job.
Do you believe that passengers, the flying consumer, if you will, take punctuality into account when they're booking their tickets?
I think we've been doing this, we've been producing the report for the last decade, and probably 10 years ago less so, but I think now very much so. Traveller experience is critical, and in the days it used to be you'd look at the price of a flight and you'd look at the convenience of the airport. Yeah. Now you want to make sure you're going to turn up on time. Business meetings, missed flight delays and eating into leisure time, travellers now actually will look to see, is that airline going to get me there on time?
That's fascinating. Listen, thanks for short and sweet, but thanks for coming on. We much appreciate it. Jeremy Bowen from Cirium there, the big boss, collecting all that 15 million pieces of data a day, yeah.